Did you ever notice two people can see the exact same thing and come up with two entirely different stories, especially with accidents? Two people witness an accident. Then they come and take the report. And you will get two entirely different stories. That's because we can only see the world through our own eyes. We interpret stuff differently. Somebody might be thinking, what does this have to do with Jesus and Christianity and discipleship and church, everything in the world? Everything in the world. The original map, Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning, God, somebody say God, created the heavens and the earth. Then God said, verse 26, let us make humanity in our image. So God created humanity in God's own image. And in the image of God, God created them. Male and female, God created them. That's the original map that we should be looking at. In the beginning, God created. Now, what that means is this. Man, you and I, humanity, when we were created with pure potential. There was no lack. There were no limitations. There were no boundaries. We were created with pure potentiality. We were created in the image and the likeness of God. That's potential. Somebody say potential. But something happened that flawed the map. Man transgressed the commandment of God, and ever since that time, we have been sinning. Somebody say sinning. That's a real Christian word there, ain't it? Which simply means we have been missing the mark that was set for us by God. Sin is not a bunch of stuff. We've been missing the mark that God set for us, which was to live life in and out of his image. Are y'all still with me? So God can say, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. Well, how could God tell man, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it? He could tell man that because he knew that in humanity he had placed pure potential. Pure potential. So man transgressed. He's still getting all of this information. Remember where we talked about where we get information from the world? Through our eyes, our sight, sound, touch. Sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. So we're still getting all of this information in from the world. All of this information. But what we're doing with the information is a different story. Which is why you can have two people see the same thing and give two different reports. Because each of them have a different map that they're using to interpret this information that's coming in from the outside. So some people can see something happen and say, isn't that just awful? And another person can say, no, absolutely not. That's one of the most powerful things that could have happened, because it has to do with what's going on in your internal world, how you are interpreting information, how you are experiencing life. Which is why, I've often been accused, even, before I was here. I mean, I'm not accused of this here, but, I've been accused over the years of preaching, teaching, and believing too much in the potential of humanity. Because we know man is just an old worm of the dust. And the very best we can hope for is that somehow we can hold on to make heaven our home. And I just look and I say, You don't know what you're missing. God believed in you so much He believed in us so much that he said, I will do everything I can do to restore them back to my image. The ultimate goal of God is to conform us into his image, which is nothing more than the completion of what he intended in Genesis. Let's make man in our image. The purpose of God has not changed. Now, we haven't all of the time updated our map. So we forgot the actual destination. Some of us have actually put detours on our map. The map said that gas station isn't there anymore. They created a bypass. Now, you can pull off all you want talking about it used to be here. It's not there anymore. So you need to scratch it off your map. You can't do that no more. Let me close this. So Adam fell. Now, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 22, it says, in Adam all die. In Adam all die. So in Adam, we all have jacked up maps. All of us. All of us. And we are all trying to make sense out of the world that we live in. We all want to understand the world that we live in. I hope. But we can't interpret everything in light of our experience. Because even the interpretation of our experience might be wrong. And if you are framing and shaping your whole worldview, the whole way you see life based off of your experience, I guarantee you, you will come up short. Because we all have imperfect experiences. That's why I've heard, that's why we have all of these different ideas, about what God is about. Is God with the poor folk and against the rich folk? Is he with the black folk against the white folk? Is he about suffering? Is he about healing? Is he about deliverance? Is he about bondage? Because people try to interpret Scripture in light of their own experience. Listen, folk, listen. The Scriptures were around way before folks start coming to America, whether they came here free or whether they came here enslaved. So we cannot interpret the gospel in light of America. America is not the standard for biblical interpretation. Jesus is. And the sooner we can recognize that, we can get back to the original map that might create that sense of urgency to go out and be fruitful and multiply. Because as long as we are dealing with faulty maps, it's always going to be us and them. Babel. Tower Babel. Let me divide these folk up so they can't understand each other's speech. And as I always say, where does speech come from? The heart. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when we speak, we are verbalizing what's in our heart. So if I can't understand what's coming out of your mouth, I can't know what's in your heart. So we start misreading people. Instead of asking, is that what you, I heard what you said, but this is how I interpret it. Is this what you were saying? Does this make sense? You know how many relationships could be enriched if we stop thinking we know what folk are saying and ask, is this what you're saying? Now, when Adam transgressed, there was something that happened. I'm really close to finish now. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15 says this. Remember, what he told him to do was to be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. Right? That's what he was told to do. But in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15, the writer writes, and he says, listen, see to it that no one misses the grace of God, and that no bitter root, somebody say bitter root. Bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. So instead of us being fruitful, we allow bitter roots to spring up. You know, the Bible tells us the fruit, singular, of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, temperance, long